Hello, welcome to Topher Stories, where stories comes alive. Please subscribe and share with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. In the heart of Obey, a small village full of noisy chickens, dusty road, and loud mouths, lived a boy named Gabriel. People call him many things: clumsy clown, village jester, or just the fool. But the name that stuck the most was the jester with no crown. Gabriel lived alone in a crooked little mud hut at the edge of the village, near the abandoned shrine where goats now roamed freely. His roof leaked when it rained, and his belly often rumbled like thunder, but still he smiled. Every morning, he'd wake up, splash water on his face from a cracked plastic bowl, and hum a silly song. Even hunger couldn't steal his joy. On this particular morning, the village square was already alive. Market women were shouting. Children were chasing chickens, and a new rumor was flying faster than mosquitoes. "Gabriel has gone mad," someone yelled. "He wore one red shoe and one bathroom slipper yesterday," another added. They laughed like they were at a comedy show. And there he came, Gabriel, hopping on one foot while balancing a pineapple on his head. "Good morning, my people," he shouted, spreading his arms wide. "Today I am training to become the village's first pineapple waiter." The crowd erupted in laughter. "You better train to become a husband to hunger," Mama TD said, shaking her head. "Or a clown at a burial," someone added, and more laughter followed. But Gabriel only smiled. He bowed like a true performer and said, "Every great king was once a servant, and every fool may one day wear the crown. Oh, please, spare us," Mama TT hissed. Gabriel turned and walked toward the river, still balancing the pineapple. The children followed him, laughing. "Gabriel, why don't you just act normal for one day?" Lil Kemi asked. "Because normal people don't make history," he replied with a wink. He knelt at the river to drink water and stared at his reflection. A slim boy with rough hair, oversized shorts, and bright eyes stared back at him. "I may be the joke now," he whispered to himself. "But one day, they'll tell my story in schools." From behind a tree, Linda, the chief's daughter, watched him. She didn't laugh. She stared. Linda was everything Gabriel was not. Her skin glowed like honey in the sun. Her clothes were always clean, and her father, Chief David, was the most respected man in Obey. People bowed when she passed. But Linda hated the attention. She preferred reading to dancing, thinking to gossiping, and most of all, she preferred the quiet to the noise of praise. That evening, when the sun had softened and the wind whispered through the trees, Linda walked to the edge of the village with a small basket of food. She stopped at Gabriel's hut and knocked. "Who dares interrupt the royal nap of the crownless king?" Gabriel shouted from inside. Linda giggled. "It's me, Linda." Gabriel quickly opened the door, almost falling over himself. "Ah, the queen herself visits the jester's castle," he bowed dramatically. "Stop it," she laughed. "I brought you something." She handed him the basket. Inside was boiled yam and palm oil, with a small bottle of water. Gabriel stared at it like it was treasure. You brought this for me?" Linda nodded. "Yes, you're always making others laugh. I thought maybe you could use a little kindness too." Gabriel tried to joke, but his voice cracked. I usually eat gold and diamonds, but I guess yam will do." She smiled. They sat outside on a flat stone as he ate slowly. "You know," she began, "you act like a fool, but I don't think you are one." Gabriel chewed quietly. "Everyone thinks I am. Even the goats avoid me. But I've seen things," she said. "That time at the market, when the vendor scales broke, you fixed it in seconds with a rubber band and a bottle cap." Gabriel shrugged. "Anyone could do that." "No, not anyone. And you always draw those things on the sand when you think no one is looking. Shapes, numbers, patterns." Gabriel looked down. "I like puzzles. I like solving things." "You're smart," Linda said simply. He chuckled. "Well, if I'm smart, I hide it well. Maybe it's time you stop hiding." Gabriel smiled faintly. "Being a fool is easier than being a threat." Linda frowned. "Who says you're a threat?" Gabriel looked her in the eye. "Smart poor boys are dangerous, Linda. People fear what they can't control." She fell silent. He leaned back and looked at the sky. When I was 10, I fixed the pastor's radio. He called me a witch, said I used dark knowledge. Since then, I learned it's safe to be funny. Linda watched him closely. Do you write too? She asked. Gabriel nodded. But only in my head. I have no books. She reached into her pocket and handed him a small, worn notebook. My old one, she said. It's almost full, but there are some pages left. Gabriel took it like it was a gift from heaven. Thank you, he whispered. You're welcome. There was a pause. You know, he said suddenly, if I ever become president, I'll make you my vice. Linda laughed. Vice President of Obey? No, he said, of the world. They both laughed. But under that laughter was something deeper, a connection, a spark of something not yet born. Gabriel stood. I'll walk you back before mosquitoes appoint you as their dinner. They walked quietly through the path, the leaves brushing against their arms, the village lights flickering in the distance. Before they reached the gate to the chief's compound, Linda turned to him. Don't let their laughter bury your gift, Gabriel. He nodded. And don't let the respect bury your truth, Linda. She smiled, then slipped inside. Gabriel walked back alone, the small notebook held tightly in his hand. The same villagers who had mocked him that morning were now snoring under leaky roofs. But Gabriel didn't sleep. He lit a small candle, opened a notebook, and began to write. Day 1, they still laugh. That's okay. I will laugh last. It was market day in Obey, and the village was alive with the smell of roasted corn, fried akra, and fresh goat manure. Traders shouted prices. Children chased kites made from old plastic bags, and women haggled like war generals. Gabriel walked to the crowd, humming his usual song and spinning a stick like a sword. Make way, he announced. The royal fool approaches. People laughed, rolling their eyes. Some mimicked him. Others ignored him. Gabriel, have you no shame? Mama Ngozi asked as she swatted flies off her fish. I traded shame for joy, he replied, bowing. Joy pays better. Just then, a voice called out from near the palm wine seller's corner. The jester will sit on the stool. Everyone turned. There, sitting on the bare ground with calabash of leaking soup and eyes that looked in 2 directions at once, was old Paul, the village madman. His beard was thick with dust, his robe torn at the shoulder, and he spoke in riddles no one took seriously. Not again, someone groaned. The madman has started. Old Paul stared into the air and began to chant softly. The one they laugh at today will one day sit on the stool they worship. When the mango turns bitter and the moon forgets her path, the fool shall wear the lion's skin. A boy laughed. He's drunk again. But Gabriel stopped. He turned slowly and looked at old Paul. What did you say, Baba? Old Paul's eyes locked onto his. For a brief second, they were clear, sharp like a knife. They will mock your tears, but one day they will beg for your smile. Gabriel froze. The crowd laughed. A man shouted, Gabriel, that prophecy is for you. Oh, you and your nonsense dreams. More laughter followed. Gabriel smiled weakly, but something stirred inside him, that strange mix of fear and fire. As the crowd moved on, old Paul spoke again, now softly. Your crown is hidden in their mockery, but you must survive the storm first. Gabriel didn't sleep that night. He sat outside his hut, replaying every word. The fool shall wear the lion's skin. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a fool at all. 2 weeks after the market day prophecy, a black SUV rolled into the village like thunder. The tires kicked up dust. The windows were tinted. The doors swung open like a movie scene. Out stepped a man in sunglasses, polished shoes, and a white caftan that looked expensive enough to feed a family for a year. Tony. He was tall, rich, and full of city swagger. Obey knew him as the boy who left 10 years ago and never looked back. Now he was back, and he wasn't alone. 2 lawyers in suits followed him, holding briefcases. The villagers gathered around like moths to a flame. Tony, you're back, someone shouted. Welcome, our own city boy. He smiled, handed out small notes. 500 naira here, 1,000 there. Chief David. Tony shouted, walking straight to the palace. The chief stood up, smiling stiffly. "Tony, you have grown." "I've come home to help," Tony said, his voice smooth. "There's opportunity here." "Big one." Chief David nodded slowly. "What kind of opportunity?" Tony looked around. "Farmland. I have buyers from the city. They want to build estate houses. Big ones. All I need is the land." Chief David's smile faded. "That land is for our people. Our children grow cassava there." Tony stepped closer. "I'll pay the villagers triple the value." "Triple? Then I'll build a new church, a health center, a borehole. You'll be remembered as a chief who brought Obey into the future." Chief David hesitated. Later that day, Tony met with Pastor Mark in secret, inside the back room of the church. "Pastor," Tony began, "I need your help." Pastor Mark sipped his malt. "Speak, my son." "I want the land, but Chief David is slow. If you can preach about how God is bringing city light to Obey and say it's a blessing, the people will listen." Pastor Mark smiled. "God works in mysterious ways, but he also works with tithe." Tony pulled out an envelope thick with money. "This is your miracle." The next Sunday, Pastor Mark stood on the pulpit and shouted with fire, "God said to me in a dream, Obey is about to rise. A city boy has come to lift us up. Sell your land and receive your blessing." The church erupted in shouts. "Amen. Preach, Pastor." "God of Obey." Gabriel sat in the back, frowning, after the service. He approached the pastor. "Sir, when did God become a land agent?" Pastor Mark's smile vanished. "Young man, don't question prophecy." Gabriel replied, "God also said, beware of wolves in sheep's clothing. You're just jealous because nobody listens to you." Pastor Mark snapped. Gabriel turned to leave. "I may be a fool, but I smell deceit when it stinks this much." Meanwhile, Tony held a secret meeting with the village elders. "Once I get the papers signed, I'll reward everyone handsomely," he said. The elders nodded. Only old Mama Doreen, the widow who sold groundnuts near the school, hesitated. "This land raised our fathers. You can't eat money and grow yam," she whispered. They ignored her. That week, flyers were passed around. Land for sale. Obey rising. Tony even brought surveyors who walked across farms with measuring tapes and fancy gadgets. The farmers were confused. One day, Gabriel found Papa Chike, a respected elder, arguing with a lawyer. "You're saying I already signed my land away?" Papa Chike asked, shaking with anger. "Yes, sir. This is your signature." "But I didn't understand paper. You said it was for fertilizer." Gabriel arrived and stepped between them. "This is fraud," he shouted. "Gabriel, keep out of grown people's matters," the lawyer barked. Gabriel turned to Papa Chike. "Did they read the paper to you?" "No. They said it was just a form." "Then it's not valid." The lawyer stepped forward. "Boy, do you even know the law?" Gabriel smiled. "Do you know I read the Nigerian Land Use Act in 3 days?" The lawyer blinked. "Did you also read that tricking old men into signing contracts is illegal under Section 48 of the Land Tenure Law?" The lawyer stepped back. Papa Chike held Gabriel's arm. "You know these things?" "I've been reading more than jokes," he replied. Word spread fast. Some villagers grew suspicious. Others were blinded by Tony's promises. Gabriel stood in the square and spoke. "My people, you mock me, but hear this. If we lose our land, we lose our future. We lose our food. Our children will have no place to farm or live." They murmured. Tony arrived, clapping slowly. "Here comes a clown," he said, preaching like a prophet. Gabriel faced him. "You brought city lies to deceive simple people." Tony grinned. "And you brought comedy to a serious matter." Gabriel stepped closer. "I'd rather be a clown with a conscience than a crook with a title." The crowd gasped. Tony's face hardened. "Watch your mouth, fool." Gabriel smiled. "You can silence me, but you can't erase the truth." From behind, Linda watched everything. She knew then Gabriel was no longer just a jester. He was becoming the voice of a people too afraid to speak. And the storm had just begun. It was another Sunday in Obey, and the church was full to the corners. People wore their finest wrappers, gelly and polished slippers. The air smelled of fresh perfume, sweat, and hope. On the altar stood Pastor Mark, wiping sweat from his brow with a handkerchief. "Today is the day of divine proof," he shouted. "The Lord is about to show us why he sent Tony to bless this land." The crowd clapped and shouted, "Amen." "Ride on, Pastor." Gabriel sat quietly in the back row, arms folded. He watched closely, his eyes narrowing. Pastor Mark lifted his Bible. "Today, Sister Rose, who has not walked in 3 years, will stand." Gasps filled the room. 2 ushers helped an old woman to the front. Her head was covered in a scarf, and she looked weak, like a bird with broken wings. Pastor Mark laid hands on her and began to pray loudly, almost theatrically. "In the name of Jesus." He turned to the crowd. "Do you believe?" "Yes." "Do you want proof that Tony is God's sent helper?" "Yes." "Then watch." Suddenly, Sister Rose stood. Her legs shook. The church screamed. "She's walking." "Jesus." Pastor Mark grabbed the microphone, triumphant. "This is the sign. Tony is here to lift us. Sell your land, take your blessing." People jumped up, some crying, some dancing. But Gabriel remained seated, eyes on the old woman's sandals. He stood slowly, raising his hand. "Excuse me, Pastor." The church fell silent. Pastor Mark frowned. "What is it now, Gabriel?" Gabriel walked to the front. "Can I speak to Sister Rose?" Pastor Mark hesitated. "Why?" Gabriel smiled. "Just 2 questions." He faced the woman gently. "Mama, before you were healed, where did you live?" She blinked. Ugwoke. "And when did you arrive and obey?" She glanced at Pastor Mark. He stepped in. "Enough, Gabriel. Don't insult our miracle." But Gabriel wasn't done. He turned to the crowd. "She's not from Obey, and she isn't lame." Gasps. "Yesterday," Gabriel continued, "I saw her walking near Tony's car, talking to the city lawyers." More gasps. "I followed her quietly. She entered the church back room, laughing. She was promised money. This is a performance." The crowd erupted. "Lies! Don't spoil our blessing." "Fool!" Pastor Mark shouted. "He is jealous of God's power, jealous of Tony's gift." Gabriel held up a photo, a blurry image of Sister Rose walking, taken with Linda's borrowed phone. "Here is the proof." But Pastor Mark snatched the phone and smashed it on the ground. "Blasphemy!" he shouted. Gabriel looked around. "Don't be fooled," he begged. "God does not need fake miracles to bless you." The elders stood. "Take him out. Stop the nonsense. He has insulted the man of God." Gabriel looked at Linda, who sat silently in the 3rd row, her face pale. Their eyes met. She wanted to speak, but fear held her back. The ushers dragged Gabriel out, and the doors slammed shut. Inside, the church erupted in praise once again. Outside, Gabriel stood in the dust, alone. His voice had been silenced again, but the seed of doubt had been planted. That night, the village square was filled with firelight, angry voices, and a small crowd of elders. Gabriel stood in the center, blood on his lip, his hands tied behind his back with raffia rope. He had been beaten by angry villagers who claimed he insulted the church, the chief, and God. Chief David sat in his chair, flanked by Tony and Pastor Mark. "This boy has become a threat to our peace," Pastor Mark declared. "He questioned the will of God," added another elder. "He mocked the miracle," someone shouted. Linda watched from the edge of the crowd, her face tight with worry. Gabriel raised his head, weak but defiant. "You're not angry because I lied," he said softly. "You're angry because I told the truth." A stone hit his shoulder. "Silence. You think you know better than your elders?" Chief David asked. "I think I know when the sheep are being led to slaughter," Gabriel replied. Tony stepped forward. "Enough. He is a danger to progress. Let him go far away from here. Let him suffer with his foolish pride." Murmurs of agreement. Chief David stood. "Gabriel, son of nobody, jester with no crown, you are hereby banished from Obey. If you are seen here after sunrise, you will be treated as a thief. Go and find your laughter elsewhere." The crowd cheered. Gabriel was dragged to the edge of the village and pushed into the bush. His clothes were torn, his feet bare. The guards left him there under the moonlight. "You're lucky we didn't kill you," one muttered. Gabriel lay still, staring at the sky. His heart was heavy, but his spirit wasn't broken. Moments later, soft footsteps approached. It was Linda. She dropped to her knees beside him. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Gabriel tried to smile. "Well, at least they didn't stone me to death." "I should have spoken up," she said. "I should have stood with you." "You still can." She reached into her bag and brought out a torn notebook, some bread, and a bottle of water. "You'll need this," she said. Gabriel took the notebook gently. "This is your second gift." "I believe in you," she whispered, "even if they don't." He looked at her, eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you, Linda." She stood to leave. "Don't give up. Your voice matters." "And you," he said, "are the only reason I still believe people can be good." They locked eyes for a moment longer. Then she turned and disappeared into the night. Gabriel stood alone, holding the notebook. He opened it and wrote, "Day 14, I was banished for truth. But the truth has legs. It will walk back into this village one day." The night was cold, but inside him, a fire had begun to burn. And this time, he wouldn't let it go out. 1 year later, in Lagos, Nigeria, a young man stood on a brightly lit TEDx stage wearing a simple t-shirt with one word printed across the chest: Clown Tech. His name was Gabriel. He held a small remote in his hand and pressed a button. On the giant screen behind him, a video played. A small flying machine hovered over wide farmland, spraying fertilizer and checking plant health. "A year ago," Gabriel began, "I was sleeping under a tree with only a notebook and an idea. Today, this drone is feeding thousands." The audience clapped. In that notebook Linda gave him, Gabriel had drawn, written, and built every dream that filled his soul. He had reached out to NGOs, tech hubs, and agricultural startups. He pitched his idea again and again until one listened. That was how Clown Tech was born. Reporters buzzed about the village clown who saved African agriculture. Social media trended with hashtags. Hashtag from clown to so. Hashtag tech messiah from mud hut. Hashtag Gabriel the game changer. Even CNN picked it up. A young Nigerian once mocked his village has developed a solar-powered drone that increases crop yield by 40%. His name? Gabriel. Meanwhile, in Obey, Chief David sat under the mango tree, wiping sweat from his wrinkled face. The fields were dry. The rains had failed. The city companies that Tony promised had pulled out. The villagers' land was gone, and with it, their future. Tony was nowhere to be found. Pastor Mark had disappeared in the middle of the night, just after it was revealed that he had been using church money to build a mansion in the next town. The villagers gathered one evening. "Chief," Mama Doreen said, "we are starving. There's no yam, no cassava, no clean water. What do you want me to do?" Chief David snapped, frustrated. "Call Gabriel," said a voice. Silence. It was Papa Chike, the old farmer. "Call him back," he repeated. "The one we chased away. The one we mocked." Some people looked away, ashamed. "But he hates us now," Chief David muttered. "Even if he does," said Mama Ngozi, "we owe him an apology. Our pride has become our poison." The chief nodded slowly. "Send messengers to Lagos," he said. "Find him." 2 messengers, Cunnell and James, traveled to Lagos the next morning. It was their first time in the city. The buses were loud. The buildings were tall. The air smelled of petrol and promise. They finally reached the Clown Tech office, a shining glass building in Victoria Island. Inside, young people in jeans and sneakers typed on laptops, flew test drones, and held meetings with foreign investors. A secretary greeted them. "Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment?" "We are from Obey," Cunnell said nervously. "We came to see Mr. Gabriel." The woman raised an eyebrow. "He's very busy. Do you have a letter?" James handed her a wrinkled note sealed with red wax. 10 minutes later, they were ushered into a sleek office with plants and books and a digital screen that showed real-time weather patterns. Gabriel sat at the desk, wearing a calm, clean expression. His beard was fuller now, and his eyes were sharper, but kind. He looked up and smiled faintly. "Colonel, James, I remember you." They bowed awkwardly. "We came with a message from Chief David." Gabriel folded his arms. "Let me guess. Obey is in trouble." They nodded, ashamed. Gabriel stood and walked to the window. "You chased me out like a dog." "We were wrong," James said quickly. "The chief says we were blind." "He says we need your help," added Colonel. "The land is dry. The people are hungry. And Tony, he's gone." Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned. "I'll come," he said. Their eyes lit up. "But not to be a savior," he added. "I'll come to teach, not to rescue." 1 week later, Obey was shaken awake by the roar of a drone flying overhead. Children screamed with joy. Old men pointed at the sky. The drone dropped a banner that read, "Hello, Obey. Miss me?" A black SUV rolled in. Gabriel stepped out. This time, nobody laughed. They gathered at the square in silence. Chief David walked forward, carrying a bowl of white cola nuts, a sign of apology. "Gabriel, son of our soil," the chief said, his voice trembling. "We wronged you. We mocked you. We sent you away." Gabriel took the bowl and smiled gently. "But I never left," he said. "Only my body did. My heart stayed." The villagers clapped, some in tears. Later, Gabriel addressed them all. "You don't need magic," he said. "You need knowledge. You need tools. You need each other." He showed them how to plant smarter using soil monitors. He taught the youth how to code and build devices. He brought back jobs, not just gifts. Obey began to breathe again. That night, as the sun set, Linda found Gabriel by the old mango tree. "You really came back," she said softly. "I never forgot you," he replied. She held up the same torn notebook she gave him a year ago. "You filled this book with dreams." "And you gave me the pen," he said. They stood in silence, the breeze carrying the scent of rebirth. Obey had laughed at him once. Now they stood in awe. The fool they banished had returned, not to punish them, but to lift them. It was morning in Obey, and the air smelled of fresh hope. The farms were green again. The soil was alive. But this time, it wasn't rain or luck that brought life. It was Gabriel. In just 6 months, he had transformed the village. The same land Tony tried to steal, Gabriel bought it back legally and returned it to the farmers, free of charge. He built a new community school where children now sat in bright classrooms with real books and working computers. A health clinic with solar panels stood beside the school. People no longer traveled far for medicine. Lives were being saved. Most surprising of all, a sleek, simple building with glass doors and buzzing machines was erected beside the chief's palace. "What is that one again?" asked Papa Jide, squinting at the sign. "It's the Tech Hub," said Gabriel, smiling. "Obey Innovation Center. There, young villagers learned how to fly drones, code simple programs, repair phones, and even build irrigation tools. One morning, as villagers gathered around a new well Gabriel helped fund, he stepped forward. "I came back to help," he said, "not to punish. But—" He paused. The crowd grew quiet. "You must remember what you did." Murmurs. He pointed toward a broken bench under a mango tree. "That was where you called me a disgrace. Where you laughed as I was dragged like a criminal. People looked down in shame." "I forgive you," Gabriel said, his voice gentle. "But forgiveness is not forgetting. It's remembering and choosing to grow." A small girl in a school uniform stepped forward, holding a paper flower. "Uncle Gabriel," she said shyly, "thank you for not leaving us." He knelt and took the flower. "I left once," he said softly, "and that nearly killed me. But I came back because this village is my home, even when it laughed at me." Old women wiped tears from their eyes. Men bowed their heads. Gabriel had made them feel something more powerful than guilt. He made them feel worthy of change. The day of the celebration was unlike anything Obey had ever seen. Bright fabrics colored the square. Drums echoed through the hills. Smoke from roasted goat meat and fried plantain filled the air. At the center of the village stood a grand stage made of polished wood and decorated with palm fronds and gold cloth. On it sat Chief David, dressed in royal red. Gabriel stood beside him, dressed simply, but with a calm pride. The chief rose. "Today," he began, "we honor the one we once called fool." The crowd cheered. "Gabriel, son of nobody, who became father to us all. We called you names. We chased you out. We spat on your gifts." People nodded, ashamed. "But today," Chief David continued, voice full of emotion, "we correct our mistake." He lifted a carved wooden crown, shaped like a smiling mask. "We give you a title never held before. You shall be called Ozo of Obey, the wise clown, the one who turned shame into glory, the one who laughed last." Gasps, claps, shouts of joy. Gabriel stepped forward. He knelt. The chief placed a crown on his head. The drums exploded in rhythm. Dancers filled the square. People cried. People laughed. From every corner of the village, children ran with flowers, throwing them at Gabriel's feet. In the crowd, Linda stood, tears in her eyes. Gabriel turned and walked to her, slowly. "You once gave me bread," he said softly. "Now I have enough to feed a nation." She smiled. "You once made me believe in magic." He took her hand. "No magic," he whispered. "Just truth, and someone who believed in me." The crowd cheered again as they walked hand in hand to center. A group of boys who once mocked Gabriel now knelt and sang. "He made us laugh, now we clap. He walked away, now we follow. He was a clown, now he is a crown." As the sun set, lanterns lit the sky. Music echoed deep into the night. But above all, one sound stood out. The sound of laughter. Not cruel laughter. Not mocking laughter. But joyful, proud, healing laughter. Obey had laughed at Gabriel once. Now they laughed with him. And for the first time in his life, Gabriel laughed at last.